Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that cuts through the noise to get you well-informed fast.
Glad to be here.
So today, we're diving into a pretty surprising idea that some of the most powerful leadership lessons actually come from war.
Right. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? The source material calls war awful, devastating, even evil.
Yeah.
Hell, basically.
Exactly. But then, paradoxically, it also calls it an incredible teacher, a brutal instructor, teaching lessons written in blood. It's a really stark contrast.
It is. And, the authors we're looking at today, Jocko, Willink, and Leif Babin, they saw it firsthand. How amazing leadership could snatch victory from seemingly impossible situations.
And then the opposite, too, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. How poor leadership could just crater even the strongest teams. That brutal instructor framing, it really lands.
It does. And from that crucible, they pulled out these ideas they call the dichotomies of leadership. Can you unpack that a bit? What does that actually mean?
Yeah, it's a fantastic concept. Basically, they argue effective leadership isn't about being one thing all the time. It's about balance. Like, almost every good leadership quality, if you take it too far, it becomes a negative.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Like, you need to be decisive, right? But not so decisive you become totally inflexible. Or confident, but, not arrogant.
Ah, I see. These opposing forces.
Exactly. Dichotomies. And leaders have to constantly find the balance point between them to really get top performance from their teams.
Okay, so our mission today in this deep dive is to pull out the key insights from the dichotomy of leadership. This isn't a history lesson or just war stories.
Right. It's about principles, hard-learned principles you can use.
Principles to help you, listening, process and apply these ideas to your world, your battlefield, whether that's, actual combat or business or just life.
The core idea, they say, is simple but not easy. Leadership demands that constant balancing act.
Simple but not easy. I like that. So where do we start? What's the first big dichotomy?
Let's kick off with a foundational one. Own it all, but empower others.
Okay, so this builds on their famous concept, extreme ownership, the idea that the leader is, 100% responsible for everything?
Everything that impacts the mission, yeah. But, and this is key, it gets misunderstood. People think it means doing everything yourself, micromanaging.
Right. And Jocko actually talks about falling into that trap himself, doesn't he, early on?
He does. Back in Fallujah, 2003, he was a pretty green platoon commander then. And he admits he got very granular, basically micromanaging every single detail.
And he wanted his junior guys to lead, but
they didn't. He couldn't figure it out at first. He knew they were capable.
So what was the problem?
It was him. As he put it, his micromanagement was so controlling that they had shut down mentally. He'd accidentally trained them not to take initiative.
Wow. So how did that change?
Well, things got so busy, the operational tempo just exploded. He literally couldn't micromanage anymore. He was forced to back off. And then his junior leaders stepped up. They started taking ownership, coming up with solid, tactically sound plans, even innovative ideas. It was a huge lesson for him.
That really shows the danger of too much ownership, or at least ownership applied the wrong way. But they also talk about the opposite problem, right? Being too hands-off.
Exactly. It's the other side of the coin. Later, Jocko was preparing for a maritime op. He deliberately tasked a senior petty officer to lead, aiming for that decentralized command he'd learned about. He wanted to empower them.
And how did that go?
Not well, initially. The rehearsal was pretty subpar. Gear was forgotten. Things weren't crisp.
So what did Jocko do? Step back in?
He confronted his leadership team. He basically said, look, I could do all your jobs, but that's not the right way to run this platoon. He set clear expectations, and he implied he would step back in if they didn't fix it.
Ah, the threat of micromanagement.
Right, even though he didn't really want to go back there long term. But that conversation, that clarity, it changed their attitudes, their actions, and their ownership instantly.
So extreme ownership isn't about doing everything. It's about being ultimately responsible.
Yes.
Which means empowering others to own their part and then owning the final outcome yourself. It's about the system.
Perfectly put. Trusting your team, letting decisions happen at the lowest level possible, but still holding that ultimate responsibility.
And you see this in business constantly.
Yeah.
The book mentions a CEO whose product development was just stalled.
Yeah. And when Jocko observed, he saw the CEO was drilled down on each aspect, making every little decision. His senior leaders had basically checked out, no initiative.
Sounds familiar. So the advice was?
Pretty direct. Give them space, give them air. You need to tell them the destination, but you need to let them figure out how to get there. Decentralize.
So, a point for reflection for you listening. Where are you on that spectrum? Are you truly empowering your team? Or is that drive to own it all actually holding them back?
It's a tough balance. And that leads us nicely into the next dichotomy, which is about standards. How do you hold the line without becoming, well, a tyrant? It's being resolute, but not overbearing.
Okay, so leaders need high standards, non-negotiable sometimes, but they also need flexibility. Tell us about that Ramadi example with the radios. That sounds intense.
It was. Leif Babin's experience, Ramadi 2006, they were taking friendly fire from a U.S. tank, rounds going just a few feet over our heads.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Wow, so communication was critical.
Absolutely life-saving, being able to talk to those Army units instantly. So Jocko, early in the deployment, laid down the law. Everyone must know how to program their radios, no exceptions.
How did he enforce that?
He didn't just say it, he demonstrated. He grabbed one sealed biff, cleared his radio's memory right there, and made him reprogram it. Then he declared, if you don't know how to program them by the next mission, you're not going outside the wire. Period.
That's resolute. You can feel the weight behind that. No room for error.
None. Because the why was survival. But then contrast that with the story about the unit patches.
Ah, yeah. The task unit bruiser patches. Jocko had banned patches, right? Said some were unprofessional.
He had no more patches. But Leif and another SEAL, Seth, designed these uniform patches for their unit. Cool names, like Big Balls in Cowtown, the Ayatollahs of Rock and Rolla.
Catchy. So, technically breaking the rule.
Technically, yes. But these patches actually built unit pride, cohesion. So Jocko saw them, understood their value for morale, and he let it go.
Why the exception?
Because he realized these specific patches weren't the problem. They built camaraderie, and as long as the really offensive ones were gone, they wouldn't cause issues with other units. It wasn't strategically important like the radios.
So the principle is, be firm, be resolute, when the standard is tied to a critical strategic why.
Exactly. Like survival, mission success, core values. Explain that why. Never just because I said so.
But on things that matter less strategically, allow for flexibility. Even let things slide sometimes for morale.
Precisely. Don't be overbearing on the small stuff. Save your leadership capital for what truly counts.
That makes so much sense. And the book gives a business example of not doing that, right? The EVP with the cell phone policy.
Oh, yeah. This EVP was super strict about no phones in meetings, made everyone physically turn them off and show him. He was apparently smug, really proud of holding the line.
Okay, so what was the problem?
The problem was, Leif pointed out, that his real strategic battle was implementing new standardized procedures across the company, which his team was resisting hard.
Ah, so he was winning the battle but losing the war.
You got it. He was spending all his leadership capital on the phone policy, a minor issue, and alienating the team he needed buy-in from for the major initiative. Being overbearing on the small stuff hurt him on the big stuff.
That's a great illustration. So for you listening, think about it. Where are you spending your leadership capital? Are you being resolute on the critical things or getting bogged down fighting battles that don't really matter in the grand scheme?
It's about prioritizing where you hold that hard line. Which brings us to another really tough balancing act. Loyalty. How do you care for individuals while still protecting the team? That's loyal to individuals, but loyal to the team.
This one feels really personal. You build bonds with people on your team. You want to support them.
Absolutely. Loyalty is crucial. But the leader's ultimate loyalty has to be to the team and the mission. And sometimes those conflict.
The story of Rock illustrates this, right? The SEAL struggling in training.
Yeah, it's a powerful, quite emotional story. Rock was new, and he was having serious trouble with close quarters combat, CQC training. Really dangerous stuff if you mess up.
And the team tried to help him.
Tirelessly.
Yeah.
Leif and the others coached him, mentored him, spent extra time, even weekends, training with him. They really invested in him.
But it wasn't enough.
Unfortunately, no. He kept struggling, kept making safety violations. Leif eventually had to make the call. He concluded Rock was, frankly, a danger to himself and everybody else in a real combat scenario.
That must have been an incredibly difficult decision.
Agonizing. But Leif made the recommendation to remove him from the platoon. He knew it was heavy, but it was necessary for the safety and effectiveness of the whole team.
So the principle here, it's not about being quick to cut people loose.
Definitely not. The book stresses most underperformers don't need to be fired. They need to be led. Give feedback, coach, mentor, give chances. really invest.
But there's a limit.
There has to be. If, after all that effort, the person's performance is still harming the team, the mission, safety, morale, then the leader must act. They have to remove the individual. It's painful, but it's the right thing to do for the greater good.
The takeaway seems to be, don't be too quick to fire, but don't wait too long. Find that balance.
Exactly. And you see this in business, too. They mentioned a construction VP struggling with an underperforming supervisor, a super, on a project.
What was the VP's hesitation?
He kept saying the super was a good guy, that he wanted to take care of these guys. Loyalty to the individual.
But the project was suffering.
The whole project. And the expert pointed out, look, if you're investing all your time trying to fix this one guy who's being ignored, the rest of the team, the whole project, the loyalty was misplaced.
So the VP had to prioritize the team, the project's success.
Right. He had to ensure the project manager either got the super performing or replaced him. Hard decision, but necessary for the team's goal.
Makes you think, for you listening, are you holding on to someone out of personal loyalty when it might actually be holding back your entire team? It's a tough question.
Very tough. And related to performance and improvement is, of course, training, which leads to our next dichotomy. Train hard, but train smart.
Okay, so training needs to be tough. It has to prepare people for real-world pressure.
Absolutely essential. You can't simulate the stress of combat or high-stakes business decisions by being easy on people. Jocko tells a story about a MOU training that's military operations in urban terrain.
Right, complex stuff.
Very. And he noticed one platoon was relying way too heavily on their chief, this guy, Big Walt. Everyone just deferred to him.
So how did Jocko address that?
He told the training staff, next scenario, put him down. Simulate that Big Walt is killed right at the start.
Take away the safety net. What happened?
Chaos. Complete breakdown. Nobody stepping up. It proved the point. Training has to make people uncomfortable, especially leaders. It forces them to develop solutions when the easy answer is gone.
So that's the train hard part, push them out of their comfort zone. But what about the train smart part? How can training be too hard?
Well, Leif gives a counterexample. A Huey rescue scenario, kind of like Black Hawk Down. His team got bogged down trying to cut through thick steel while under overwhelming simulated enemy fire.
Sounds miserable.
He said it became nothing more than a huge suckfest. They just had to grit their teeth and endure it. In his assessment, it was the least educational training evolution they did.
Why? Because it was just overwhelming.
Exactly. It was so difficult, so frustrating that learning stopped. It just crushed the team, demoralized it. They weren't problem solving. They were just surviving the drill. That's not smart training.
Okay, so hard training is vital, pushes boundaries, builds leaders.
Critical. Got to go far beyond their comfort zone.
But smart training means it's realistic, it applies pressure, but crucially, it's designed so that people actually learn and grow from it, not just get demoralized or shut down.
Precisely. It's about effective learning under pressure, not just pressure for pressure's sake.
And this applies directly to business development. They talk about senior leaders complaining about inexperienced managers.
Right. Complaining, but doing nothing about it. They had no training program and were waiting for the executive team to build one.
Not exactly extreme ownership.
Not at all. The expert challenged them. Does that sound like extreme ownership? It's up to you to develop the training program.
So what was the advice?
Put your junior, inexperienced leaders in difficult scenarios. Simulate tough decisions, apply pressure, make them lead, then critically debrief immediately, analyze what happened, what worked, what didn't. That's hard and smart.
So looking at your own team's development, is your training pushing them effectively? Is it smart? Or is it maybe too comfortable or perhaps so hard it's counterproductive?
Finding that sweet spot for growth is key. And often, effective action requires balancing initiative with caution. Our next dichotomy. Aggressive, not reckless.
Okay, aggressive sounds like a good leadership trait. Proactive, taking initiative.
It is. Jocko says the default should be an aggressive mindset, meaning you actively look for ways to solve problems, achieve the mission, seize opportunities, don't just wait.
But there's a but.
There's always a but with dichotomies. Aggression needs to be tempered with analysis and risk assessment. He talks about being asked by a brigade commander to take out enemy mortar teams in this area called Sea Lake.
High-value targets sounds like a mission they'd jump on.
Their default was aggressive, yes. But Leif's platoon did the analysis. They dug into the intel.
And what did they find?
They found no discernible pattern to the enemy attacks. The chances of actually catching the bad guys were very low, but the risk to the SEALs and support troops going in was extremely high.
So high risk, low reward.
Exactly. So Jocko supported Leif's assessment. He went back to the brigade commander and said, basically, The risk isn't worth the reward, and advocated for different approaches. That's aggression balanced with smart assessment, not reckless.
And they contrast this with a story where that balance was missing.
Tragically, yes. Another Special Operations Unit leader. He got warnings from experienced National Guard guys about a specific road being heavily laced with IEDs. Most dangerous road around.
But he didn't listen.
He was barely unfazed, confident in his unit's armored vehicles and massive firepower. Jocko strongly advised him to at least develop alternate routes or contingency plans. The leader blew it off.
Oh no. Let me guess.
Yeah, his convoy hit a massive IED on that exact road. Vehicles disabled, soldiers wounded, pinned down for hours. That's recklessness. Confidence became arrogance. Aggression became blind action.
Such a stark difference. So the principle is, be proactive, attack the problem aggressively.
Yes. The problem, the challenge, the opportunity, not necessarily people.
But always balance that drive with clear-eyed, logical analysis of the risks versus the potential gains.
Couldn't say it better. Never be reckless.
And the business world parallel. They mention a CEO planning rapid expansion.
Right. Small business CEO, really enthusiastic, aggressive about growth, wanted to build the team now, hire fast, expand quickly.
Sounds ambitious. Good trait, right?
Ambition is good, yes. But Jocko, acting as an advisor, had to pump the brakes. He insisted on a serious and unemotional analysis of the financials.
And the numbers told a different story.
They showed her aggressive plan would burn through all their cash, likely leading to bankruptcy. The aggression wasn't grounded in reality.
So the solution wasn't don't grow, but
grow in a measured, balanced way. Set up checkpoints, triggers, and branch plans to manage the risks along the way. Aggressive goals, but not reckless execution.
Makes sense. So for you listening, how's your balance? Is your drive for action always paired with careful assessment? Or does your aggression sometimes tip into recklessness?
It requires constant vigilance. Which brings us to our final dichotomy for today, one that demands a lot of mental flexibility. Focused, but detached.
Focused but detached. Okay, how does that work? You need to be focused on the details, surely.
You do, but you can get too focused, lost in the weeds. Leif talks about his very first combat op in Ramadi. He got completely bogged down, obsessed with the details of getting mission approval paperwork just right.
Understandable for a first op, maybe? High pressure?
Sure, but he lost sight of the bigger picture. Why they were there, the strategic goals.
So how did he snap out of it?
Jocko stepped in. From his more detached commander's perspective, he pushed Leif to launch the mission that night. He explained the strategic importance of generating momentum early in the deployment, building trust with higher command.
Ah, so Jocko provided the bigger picture view.
Exactly. Leif learned he had to sometimes detach to not get so focused on the details that he missed the strategic context. Pull back, see the forest.
Okay, so that's the danger of being too focused. What about being too detached? Battlefield aloofness, they call it.
Yeah, that's the other extreme. Jocko observed a task unit commander during a training exercise. This guy's platoons were inside a building, heavily engaged, pinned down, needing guidance urgently.
And where was the commander?
Sitting in his Humvee. Outside the building, just asking for status updates over the radio. He was too removed, physically and mentally, to actually command and control the situation effectively.
Wow. He wasn't leading from the right place.
Not at all. Jocko's feedback was direct. He told him, you aren't stuck in the vehicle. Move around to wherever you can best provide command and control. Or you can sit here in your Humvee and wait for everyone to die.
Oof.
But necessary. The point is, leaders need to detach to get perspective, see the big picture, think strategically. But they can't be so detached they lose touch with the reality their team is facing on the front lines. They need to understand the challenges to provide real support.
So you need to zoom out for strategy, but zoom back in to understand the ground truth.
Exactly. It's a constant toggling of perspective.
And there's a business example of this too. Someone having an aha moment.
Yeah. A senior leader named Rob, during a training session, he suddenly saw this opportunity for modularization to cut costs. A big strategic win.
And he hadn't seen it before.
Nope. He realized it was because day to day he was totally immersed in the details, down in the weeds. Physically stepping away, detaching for the training, gave him the altitude to see the strategic landscape differently.
That's a great practical example. So for you listening, how often do you intentionally step back? Do you create space to detach from the daily grind and gain that strategic perspective? Or are you maybe too stuck in the weeds? Or perhaps even too detached, losing touch with what's really happening on the ground.
It's a discipline, that detachment.
It really is. So we've covered a lot today. We looked at owning it all versus empowering others.
Being resolute but not overbearing.
Loyalty to individuals versus loyalty to the team.
Training hard but training smart.
Being aggressive but not reckless.
And just now, focused but detached. Just a handful of the dichotomies leaders face.
And the book makes the point that this list is basically endless, right?
Yeah, they say the list of dichotomies is infinite. Because any positive leadership trait, pushed too far, flips and becomes a negative. Often, they say, a leader's greatest strength can also be his or her greatest weakness.
That's a powerful thought. Your strength becoming your weakness if you don't find that balance.
And the key, they argue, is first just recognizing these tensions exist. Seeing the dichotomy.
Awareness is step one.
Step two is paying careful attention, so you can sense when things are drifting out of balance. It requires constant self-assessment.
It's not a checklist, it's an ongoing calibration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not a one-time fix. It's the continuous work of leadership.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a final thought for you to consider. Which of these dichotomies, or maybe one we didn't even cover today, that you see in your own world, do you personally find the most challenging to balance? And how might just a small, conscious shift in your approach, finding a slightly better equilibrium, unlock a whole new level of performance for you and your team?